Hey girl, hey, this is Nakia, your host for Single Wife Living My Blessed Life. And I would like to take this time to thank everyone who made season 1 of this podcast a success. I want my guests who took the time out of their busy schedules to tell us about their dating life, their marriages, their divorces, and their healing journeys. I would also like to take time to thank all of you who took time to watch every episode or to subscribe or leave a comment or to share a link. Thank you so very much for your support. So, season 1 is over, but don't worry, season 2 will be back in the fall. I'll keep you posted. So, I did a lot of editing and a lot of scenes got deleted. But I want to leave one with you because I thought you would really enjoy it because I enjoyed it. I enjoyed them all. This one kind of stood out. I love the idea of being a submissive wife. I really do. I also like the idea of spouses submitting one to another. It's in the Bible. Read it. But Tiffany Henderson had something really, really interesting to say about it. Pastor Tiffany Henderson had something really, really interesting to say about it. So I'm going to leave you with her words. So thank you so much for spending this time with me in season 1. And until next time, may God's blessings continuously be upon you. Yeah, it was a good time. The only question I didn't ask is about being a submissive wife. I think a lot of people would take a sip on that one because I think a lot of people, when you like, I've heard so many times, I can't imagine you being so submissive. You're strong and blah blah blah. And I think that like that's why you don't have a husband, because nobody can tell you nothing. Lots of people can tell me I am very easily. I love to learn, but sir, you haven't submitted to God. So what am I submitting to? Mm-hmm. One, two, you have no plan for you. How you gonna have a plan for us? What are you asking?
That's all.
So they think that because you're strong, you have a strong personality, that it's gonna take some man to whip you in straight, and that's not what submission is. No. So what's your take on being a submissive wife? Both of you.
I think it takes a lot of work to be a submissive wife. Even that's the honest answer. Even when you have a man, I think women don't realize what that looks like. Even when you have a man who's submitted to God, who has a vision and a plan,
a man of God.
You have that, and you still like it because you still have a will, and so it takes a lot to just to say, okay, Lord, I'm going to trust you as I submit, as I follow Him in this area, though I feel like I have a better way, and because that's really like, no, seriously, like that happens so often where when
happens every day.
It doesn't happen every day.
Happens
and so every day. You have like, people say that, oh yeah, it's easy if he's submitted to God. Not necessarily. Especially if you are a strong-willed person and you know him too. You like that Miriam spirit come up on you like, well, I know the Lord too. And so then the Lord has to say, but I called him to lead you, so follow him. So the Lord will humble you many times, and then after you are humbled by the Lord's mighty hand,
he said every day.
Then you say, okay, Lord, I'm gonna go ahead and follow him. And really being submissive just means that you have to learn how to trust your husband, and that's difficult sometimes because through life you go through so many different things. You're like, last time I trusted you on this, it didn't work out that well, and so now I have to do that again. So you have to submit to God every time so that you can submit to him. And I think that's the misnomer. I think amongst a lot of single women, they're like, oh yeah, if I got a man of God, it's gonna be easy. Yeah, not necessarily, because you've been doing it your own way for a long time. And that man of God is gonna have a plan, and you may not want that same plan. And then you have to now submit to the Father afresh every time.
Afresh every time.
Every time, so that you can say, okay, I will follow you. Yes, I will go. And that is it is something that you have to stay, you have to humble yourself as a woman to be okay with following him, especially when you're someone who is, as he likes to say, outspoken, and you have your own thoughts and ideas. And the Lord is like, yes, that's nice. I gave you those ideas and those thoughts, and I still want you to follow him. And then you have to do it. So I do want to help people. It's not as easy as people may think, even with someone who is submitted to God, because we all have issues.
What are your thoughts on it, sir?
I would say that in that same context of wives submit to your own husbands, it also says, but submit ye one to another. Uh,
Before that.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have to submit to my wife as well. And so, and that takes many different forms. I mean, what we're doing on this broadcast is an example of that. You know, most of the talking on this broadcast, my wife has done most of the talking. Like, I don't have no problem with that.
That's not good most.
I'm just, listen, let a sister's voice be heard. That's less talking for me to do. And so I've had some thoughts about the answers to these questions since we've been sitting here. I haven't said all my thoughts about it, and I don't have to say all my thoughts about it. And so I've had to, even while we've been sitting here, I've had to submit to her. She has her own thoughts about the answers to some of these questions. And we don't have to be in agreement about the answer to all of the questions. I don't have to say, well, I don't agree with that, babe. I think that it should be like this. And no, it's not even that serious, because we're submitted one to another, though.
Mm-hmm.
And being submitted, there are some principles to it. Like, I don't have to be right.
And I don't have to be right. Though I want to be.
And it's not as valuable to me to be right as it is to be righteous. And there's a difference. Because we can have an argument where I'm right, but it didn't buy us anything, though. And we can have an argument where she's right, but what did it buy us?
Yeah.
And so, unless we come to some agreement, we're not going nowhere. And I can't go nowhere by myself.
And I don't want to go anywhere by myself.
It's not like I'm about to prosper by myself and she poor.
No, it's not.
So if we're not both prospering, though I'm right, then what difference did it make? And so there is a
How do you get rid of that pride or that ego? When does that happen?
It takes a long time.
It takes time.
It takes time. It takes time in the Lord. Like the holy that's why you have to be submitted to God in the beginning. Like, that's the core. And
I can't stress it enough.
I would say that I knew that I loved my wife from the first day we started talking. Mm-hmm. And I would say that I knew that she was going to be my wife from the first day we started talking to each other. But we don't often explain how I knew that, though. And how I knew that is because I already was in love with Jesus, though. And because I was in love with Jesus first, when I started talking to my wife, I realized that I was talking to the same Jesus who I was in love with. Mm. And so, because I knew, when I realized I was talking that day to the same Jesus I was in love with, I knew I was in love with her as well. Mm. And that foundation has carried us these 24 years.
Solid.
Yeah. Which is why nothing else that happens, good or bad, really matters. The only thing that matters, because my sinner and I'm in love with Jesus, is maintaining that love, though. Because In order for me to fall out of love with my wife, I have to also fall out of love with Jesus too.
I
And
don't think
so,
I've ever heard anybody say that
and so we,
in relation to a spouse. Like if because people are like, well, we grew apart, we just fell out of love.
like,
Some of y'all like, we don't know nothing.
mm-mm. Because the center of my love, the center of the reason why I love and am in love with her is Jesus, though.
Period.
And so, in order to get rid of her, I got to get rid of Jesus too.
It's the same.
And so, there's an eternal bond that is while we're working toward the same goal in submissiveness, even when it seems like we're not. We always converge back to this center point, though, because that's the foundation of our relationship. And I would tell I know we're focusing on young women on this show too. We need to have another show for young men because I can just speak about this.
I can do another one for you.
Listen, I have a lot to say.
I've already written y'all down for season 2.
Okay. And I would say you need to cultivate your relationship with Jesus so that you can know that you're in love with another person when you're talking to Jesus in them. That's the tie that binds. That's the center of the relationship, and then whatever else you experience is built on that foundation of Jesus Christ. My wife was correct. She said no other foundation can be laid but Jesus Christ. And if you're afraid of that foundation, then all you can build on is a shaky foundation. And Jesus talked about that. He said, he who builds his house on a rock, the rains will come and the winds will blow and beat upon that house, and it's going to stand because it's built on a rock. But he who builds his house on sand, the winds are going to come and the winds are going to blow and the rain is going to come and beat on that house. And he said, and great was the fall of it because it was built on sinking sand. And so the foundation is important. That's where the submissiveness comes from, because I'm not being submissive to her. I'm being submissive to Jesus, though.
Single Wife Living My Blessed Life is an Abundant Faith Media Group production. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching.